So this is episode 2 of Meta as Fuck. This time I'm joined by LiNkzr from Dignitas. Now, this show is supposed to be like more about the meta and talking about heroes, compositions, that kind of stuff. However, we were both this weekend at the XtraCup finals, and I was kind of supposed to interview you, but you guys were really tired after like your 3 games. So we are this time going to be going through some questions that I had kind of lined up for you guys at the event.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we'll move on to like more meta stuff, hero stuff, composition, that kind of thing. So the first thing I kind of want to ask is about Dignitas, kind of a general question, because we hadn't had a lot of news from you guys for a really long time. Like the last big thing that you guys competed in was at ELeague, the Overwatch Open, and then right after that, you guys had a roster swap. The new roster was not really announced, but you still were playing online apparently with Veinless and ELeague at the time.
Yeah.
But it was only announced like, what was it, a week or 2 ago that they were officially signed along with What7. So can you give us a bit of information about that, the roster in general?
So after we started making the roster changes, we wanted to take our time, to find the right players for it. So we didn't want to like instantly find a player and sign him. So we had like longer period of time where we like actually tested out the player, see how they like mix with the team, what they can bring into the team.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just basically a long trialing period, with Venus, ELeague, and What7.
So you were still trying other players during that time?
Well, for the support roles, like for Venus and ELeague, we were kind of settled on them, like before they signed,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just that we wanted to finalize the full roster before like announcing that we signed like all the players.
Right. Because I believe you guys competed in some of the qualifiers that we had in December. I think it was like for like DreamHack and maybe MSI, MGA. I'm not sure.
Yeah, for MSI, yeah.
So what was the lineup back then? Because you had ELeague and Veinless then, right?
Yeah, we had Drakius was still playing with us, and we had him on the tank role. And then we made some changes and started looking for tank players too.
All right.
It's been like basically since ELeague, it's been like a really long process of like actually finding the players for the roster.
Right. So you were this weekend at the XtraCup finals, this kind of small LAN finals for this online tournament in France. And I was fortunate enough to be here. We chatted a bit. It was kind of fun. One thing that kind of arose on Twitter were some complaints, most notably from one of your teammates, Bromas, about some of the issues with the screens. So can we go into that a bit? Because there's a point that I kind of want to make with this.
Okay. So basically, the online part of the cup was run really smoothly. But there were like a lot of problems at the LAN when it came to like actually executing down the tournament. Like the monitors, like Promas mentioned on Twitter, had like 60 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of pro players don't even like have those anymore. So it's not like the standard for LANs you should have anymore. You should always have at least 120 hertz monitors. And they should be like affordable enough.
Yeah.
And there were issues with the connection. I'm not sure why. Like, okay, so like there's the 6 computers from the right side. I had the normal ping, right? And when you went towards the end of the line, the ping just raised up. And there were like micro freezes and all kind of different connection issues. It was really odd.
Right. So I was aware about that like during the warm-ups and stuff, but did that kind of, was that felt in game as well during the actual games?
We had a couple of fights where a couple of our players just micro froze for like 3-4 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I think you actually saw it on stream, and we played against Grand Denoise, and we were playing I remember it because I killed a tracer who was standing still on the Legion tower. I just noticed him standing still and just threw 3 shurikens and he just died. So he probably just froze in middle of the point.
Yeah, obviously that's really unfortunate. What I'm trying to point out here is not to like criticize the tournament or anything like that, but to put a bit of perspective on things, because this was, after all, kind of like a tiny organization doing this for a 5K tournament, and yet in NA at the same time we had this huge tournament between like a lot of, I would say, similarly skilled teams to what was happening here in EU, and yet you had this really drastic difference in terms of the prize pool, right? So that kind of brings on stuff that I've been talking about with in my previous interviews with like guys from Chris from the Chavs and all those interviews about this difference between NA and EU. So let's talk a bit about that. What are your thoughts?
So I think the main thought I'm always having when it comes to like NA and EU stuff, like the way the industry is there, like they have it like better set up, you know. They have like their own teams. Like EU is like it's more split, you know. There's no big EU organization. There's like an IP, and then there's what was the other organization? Like Dignitas is not even EU anymore.
I mean,
You know,
there was Rogue and Misfits who played in EU, but they're not even EU orgs anymore, really.
yeah.
So
This is like NA has way more of a like a viewer base, you know, for the tournaments to be held, and they know how to market it a bit better, I think. So they can like afford throwing money at tournaments, you know, expecting a good return because they know there's like a huge population who watches the games.
did you watch a bit of the like the VODs from the XtraCup, like the broadcast, to see how it was a bit
Yeah,
afterwards?
I did.
Because if you compare that to NGE, even though there's like very drastic amounts of funding behind, like the quality isn't necessarily like that much ahead of what we had at the Extra.
No, that's true. The stream actually looked really good, and like I think the biggest like XtraCup would have had way more exposure if it had an English cast for sure.
Yeah.
Like the French cast had what, like 1.5 thousand people
Mm.
on like on the finals, and like that alone, if that's like French people, you know, and some English people who just like happen to tune in, you know, I think the XtraCup could have hit like pretty decent numbers if they just like advertised it properly,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of the EU tournaments are missing right now.
I mean, you don't have to convince me. Like the main reason I came was to have some kind of EU, some kind of English content for that tournament.
Yeah.
So anyway, talking about this kind of EU NA kind of thing, Dignitas had a really good Counter Strike team, Danish Counter Strike team, just a few months back, and they did not re-sign that team, and that was like around mid-December, and they kind of hinted at maybe recruiting an NA team. Now, with, of course, Dignitas being bought out by the 76ers, which is a basketball team from Philadelphia, NA based, with the Overwatch League being kind of rumored to be only NA, like there's kind of like this big question for you guys. What's like the plan? Like what's your relationship with like the big management from Dignitas? Have they hinted at anything potentially you guys moving? Have you discussed it? Like, can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, the moving to NA thing is like there's like Overwatch League is like this big looming thing in the dark, you know. No one knows about it,
Yeah.
but it's like we know it's there, and it's like we have no clue how to prepare for it, right? Because we have like since the BlizzCon was, they announced it at the BlizzCon, we had like no information after that, like how it's gonna develop, you know. So moving to NA is like a tough decision, kinda. They have more tournaments, you know, but we don't know what's happening in EU. We don't know what's happening in with the Overwatch League. So it's a hard decision to do. Like I'm pretty sure everyone that our team is willing to move to NA if like the situation arises. But right now we're just like looking at the numbers and seeing if it's like really worth it, you know.
Right. But like, did you discuss that a bit, like just between your teammates, or is it like with the org itself? You guys have talked about it.
We discussed it with teammates and with the org. Like every team has probably done it. That do we move to NA? You know, it's a talk that every team is gonna have at some point, because there's no information, and NA has like the bigger tournaments right now.
Right. Because like Rogue has said quite a few times that their intention was to move to Las Vegas. Like the CEO said multiple times, yeah, we're based in Las Vegas, that kind of thing. But it hasn't really yet happened. But they did say they were going to do it. So for you guys, it's still not sure, I guess?
No, we haven't decided on anything yet.
Okay.
Like for me, like my personal opinion about like moving to NA right now can be a bit weird, because like if every team is gonna move to NA, Blizzard is gonna be like, the EU has actually no organizations left anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And you would deprive like a whole continent out of tournaments just because at some time there wasn't like, you know, something going on. It can be like a bit of a rabbit hole, kinda. If every team just moved to NA now, it would be like tough for Blizzard to like actually promote EU scene, which is like still huge, you know? There's a lot of interest in EU.
Right. So do you have kind of an idea like what's next for you guys in terms of tournaments, or is it just like this like wasteland of like, well, we don't really know?
I mean, there's a lot of rumors, you know?
Yeah.
But as long as there's nothing like you can like grab on, oh, we have a tournament this time and this one is organizing. It's just a bit of a limbo, you know?
Yeah.
But we'll scrim and we'll play any tournaments we get to play.
So it's scrim and wait and then see what happens.
Yeah, there's not much else you can do, you know? You can't make your own tournaments, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you heard, but some people in EU are working on some stuff for some smaller teams. But more on that later, I guess.
Okay.
So I guess we can now talk about more about the game, the meta, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you had this kind of amazing quote when we did one of the post-game interviews together on camera. You said, and I quote, "You can play whatever you want this patch if you just execute well." So this whole thing is going to be about going through that quote and seeing like how much of that is actually through, because we had this very, very tank heavy meta before. Now people are all saying, oh, dive's a bit more prevalent, right? But in the end, we still had the Chavs win with their very good like triple tank. So kind of general thoughts on that.
Okay, so well, what basically happened in the finals is that we just didn't execute properly, right? I mean, I mentioned the Snizzlenose was playing well, but we were like when it comes to dive, there's like lots of things going on compared to when you play triple tank. It's like completely two different play styles.
Yeah.
And I guess we were just like a bit new to the dive, so we didn't like, we not crumbled, but you know, it's just that, how do I explain this, that it just happened, you know? Like we had good results with dive against all the other teams who played triple tank, right? And Chav just like one upped our game at the LAN, basically.
Yeah, they said that they were scrimming like a lot of really, really strong dive teams, like Rogue and those teams that we don't really see too much. Do you think that played kind of like their experience against them kind of played to their advantage versus you guys?
Definitely. Practicing, like, dive plays out basically the same, right? I always like to compare dive to like rushes in like StarCraft 2 or something.
Yeah.
Like a forgate, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know the timing, you know what's gonna happen, and you kind of know what you need to defend it, you know, and get an advantage, right? So if you practice against a lot of dive, there's not much the players can do differently, except find some different angles and, you know, like different kind of positioning. But other than that, it's kind of the same. So practicing against the good dive teams will definitely help.
All right. You talked about execution, so could you take us for people that play at maybe a lower level, kind of like those gold platinums? Could you take us through the process of like what's playing dive, like maybe what's called, what's the focus, that kind of thing?
Okay, so basically for us, how we kind of approach this is that we we decide on where we wanna engage from, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to stay as close as possible to your own teammates and find like the shortest route to the enemy team's backline without being like poked too much, right? Because you don't have a Rhine shield and you might play Zen, so you don't have that much heal. So you want to be as safe as possible, as long as possible, and then just get close. After that, you scout out where the like key targets are. If they have a McCree, if they have an Ana, even Zarya is like a key target. If Zarya uses like her own ability, like to
Her
shield
bubble,
herself,
yeah.
yeah, and it, and then you can like call that okay. We can engage the Zarya. There's no shield, right? Like big abilities you want to avoid are like flashbang, Ana sleep, Ana grenade, like Zarya shields. Mm. Roadhog hook is one. Like there's lots of different things that you can like decisions you can make when you like play the game. It's like, oh, Macri used flashbang, we can go with him, on him with Razor and Winston, you know.
Mm.
It's like, and then it's like Lucio speed boosts, everyone jumps in, we go on the target that was called on, and then it's just like there's always some like splash damage kind of when you jump in, you know. Genji dashes, monkey laser, so you just call like the low targets kind of
Yeah.
that are like close to each other, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like working inside of that chaos afterwards, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of those dive, one hero that you're kind of known for is your Genji. Now, in one of the interviews at the end with Chris, I said, "Oh, during the finals, Fisher reflected a graviton, all that." I was actually wrong. It wasn't Fisher. It was actually you. Do you remember that play? What happened there? Kind of like what your thought process was in doing that.
I remember, like, okay, so reflecting a graviton, it's kind of weird. It's whenever I know that they have like a Zarya ulti, you know, there's been like 2 fights, they won
Yeah.
both of them. Zarya's being like full charge. You like can assume that there's a graviton. I actually remember this pretty well. I remember walking out of the Legion, like the main, where we
Mm-hmm.
come out. I checked the left side, there's a Roadhog there, and I don't see Zarya anywhere. So I'm like, my head is like, where's the Zarya? She's gonna ulti us close. They're like positioning themselves like super close to us. And then I just like looking around, and then on the right, I can just quickly glance, and Zarya's like coming there. I'm like, oh, it's happening, and there's just like reflect, hope for the best kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's pretty much impossible to react to it coming. You have to kind of, with game sense, know that it's going to be coming, right?
It's like you have to know it's coming, and there's like certain distance where you can like react to it, right?
Yeah, if you're far enough, yeah.
Yeah, but I remember it was like so close to finish it that it was just like up to him to be a bit too hasty on it, you know?
Yeah. All right. So, what do you think about Genji in general? Kind of like his state currently, because he's had like over the past few months quite a few nerfs. Right. There was the nerf on his ultimate, the blade, 2 seconds less. There was the nerfs to his triple jump, so you could double jump, then climb up a wall, and then jump again.
Yeah.
You had the right click, then melee, then dash combo that was removed. Now you can only right click plus dash or right click plus melee. You can't do like all three. And finally, what was it, like a month ago? No more edge dashing.
Oh yeah, the ledge boosting, yeah.
Yeah, ledge boosting.
Mm, I honestly still think that Genji is like a viable character just because that he still bursts down people. Like they reduced his burst by like 30 damage basically.
Yeah.
Like the one of the bigger nerfs to Genji was when like they reduced the melee damage. That was like actually a big nerf to Genji because and like paired with the shuriken damage nerf, you could like kill 200 HP people like instantly without any headshots, and that was like the time again. It was like absolute monster of a character. But right now, it's just every Genji player needs to have like really solid movement. You know, they cannot like mistime jumps. You know, you mistime a jump and you cannot climb a wall, and you're basically dead, right? You just fall into enemy team. You make a wrong dash and you're out of position, and you don't have like that bit of extra damage in the shurikens to actually like take a duel afar, because most characters still like out DPS you. And same with the Dragon Blade, like you pop the ultimate and you make one wrong dash, and that's like already means that you can basically kill only one or two guys anymore. Like there's so many little things that has been nerfed that Genji needs to be played like optimally, you know, to maintain the same level of effectiveness, kinda.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's I think still Genji is in a good place, but I just find it enjoyable to play such a hard character, kinda.
Yeah, I think that's what most Genji players like overall. It's just the character itself. But the question is like how much of of him being played right now is because of the resurgence of dive versus just him being strong overall.
I mean, I think Genji is still a strong character overall. You can play him in triple tank comps as the DPS. Like usually that it could have been like a D.Va or a Soldier or a McCree. But now that other teams are not necessarily playing tanks only, you can still use Genji as like a finisher kind of deal, you know, to snowball the fight without any ultimates necessarily.
Yeah, that's kind of what the Chaz were doing versus you guys at the end, because they had Snizzlenose on the Hog for that triple tank. But then again, they also had Fisher on his Genji.
It's like Genji kind of feels the high ground control role, you know?
Yeah.
You have the Ana in the triple tank comp, and then you get the Genji ultimate, and then it's like the Genji can take care of the high ground himself. If it's a good engagement. It's a potent character to like disturb the enemy team.
Yeah. So yeah, we were talking about the fact that Genji could still be used with tanks. So there's kind of people going for like just the triple or quad tank, and then there are some people going for full dive. But then again, you have these kind of hybrid compositions that still get a Genji in there. And the consequences is that kind of have to like that changes what supports the enemy team has to be running, because when you're full dive and they don't have any kind of threat to your supports, you can run a Zenyatta. But then I was speaking to Dante. He was like, if they have like just anything that can jump on you, you kind of have to go back to like an Ana.
Yeah, basically, it's like the hybrid comps. I enjoy playing them maybe more than a dive or your typical tank comp, because the hybrid comps playstyle is something in between. You know, you can take aggressive fights or you can take passive fights. You have like hit scan to fall back on. You have like poke damage for the shield, and you have like strong ultimates to combo. But the like Ana against the dive is so good. Like she has so many tools to deal with like flankers. She can take like any 1v1 basically against any DPS on like any range, which is kind of insane still. But Zen is when you compare Zen to Ana and like what defensive tools Zen has, is just like Zen just needs to like win the 1v1 with like damage basically. Ana like has like
Discord and kill him or you die.
Yeah.
Okay. In that kind of like more hybrid composition, if you were still on Genji, does like that kind of changes your role, right? Because you can be a bit more of a freelance, jumping around doing your thing instead of like coordinating, right? So is that what you prefer in those comps?
I like so like Genji and Widow are like my two favorite characters, right? And it mostly boils down to the fact that yes, I can coordinate with my team, but what I find more enjoyable is like picking out like a soft spot in the enemy lineup. You know, I see that the Reinhardt is pushing too far forward, for example, and then I just can like coordinate with my team that okay, we can go for the Reinhardt. That's an easy target, and after that, it's like it's my field. You know.
Yeah.
there's so much freedom, and it's not the dive comp, but hybrid comp for you to like make calls and decisions that it's just more fun to play those type of characters. You know, you can just like do whatever you want on the map and like make the enemy team hate you.
Okay, so speaking of Widow, you guys did play a bit of Widow this tournament. I believe it was on Anubis. You went for a solo tank comp with a Widow and a Fair Mercy, I believe, right? Could you tell us a bit more just about this composition and about Widow, but also about Anubis?
Okay, so Anubis is an interesting map nowadays because a lot of the teams cannot hold the first point anymore because all the every team has like basically managed to like one up their attacks. You know, every like you can build compositions that are very annoying to counter, and there's nothing much in 2CP that the enemy team can do. You know, because with the Pharah Mercy Widow, and I think we had a Tracer.
Yeah.
And Winston. So it's like the Pharah Mercy, Winston, and Tracer go on the high ground that the defending team is usually holding on, and when they go, the Widow follows up a bit after. So you have like this amazing view the whole point, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing that the enemy team can really do is send, if they have a Winston, Diva, or a Genji to you. They usually can't have like two of those, right? So you'll just have to deal with one guy. You can have one of your supports like stay a bit back with you, and then you just take a 2v1 and just like snowball it from there.
Yeah. So it's kind of like those guys being a distraction and creating space for you to then like pop shots up top.
Yeah, basically. But also there's like it also for my job as a Widow too is to take attention, right? Whenever I pick a Widow, I know I'm gonna get attention from someone, right? So it means that they have more space to play around, you know? It's not necessarily that the Widow takes space, it also gives space.
Oh, okay. But is it like only in this? Because I thought it was more like the other guys creating space for you, but you seem to be saying it's more about you being a threat, therefore kind of creating space for them. Is it kind of both, or is it just that way?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. Like if they create the space properly for me, I can do a lot of things, right?
Right.
And like usually, like enemy team might send a Winston on me, right?
Yeah.
But if the Winston is like soloing me and I get away, it's been like 5v5 for my team, and there's no Winston, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I can probably get into the fight a bit faster than the Winston. So it means that we have like small advantages all over the map, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And if the Winston overextends for me, my team can just like fall back and help me. And there's like, it just makes the team dynamic different than your normal hybrid comps without a Widow. But it can be like, it goes both ways. The Widow gives space for your team and you take space, kind of.
All right. So you guys also did a tiny bit of Junkrat on one of the Nepal maps.
Yes.
I think it was specifically on one of those stages. It's like the inside one. What is it?
Sanctum.
Sanctum? Yeah, Sanctum.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's something you had prepared only for that, right? Only for that stage.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna reveal our strat here because I think it was kind of fun.
You don't have to if you don't want to, but like.
No, I don't think we're gonna play it anymore.
Okay.
So we had Hanzo Junkrat on the Sanctum point. We played McCree because we knew that Swoosh was gonna play Pharah.
Right.
Because he played Pharah before and it kind of destroys us. So it's usually Hanzo Junkrat, and if they don't have a Pharah, we just like spam the chokes and they don't have any space to move, right?
Right.
And we just like move as a team and like fall back as a team to basically if they have a dive, we just kite them. If they want to take a sheet battle, we have Junkrat and Hanzo, and that's with the medicine. That's basically it.
So it's literally like just throw shit at them and they'll die. like that's okay. That's kind of fun.
We actually had we actually lost like out of like 6-7 times we played it, we lost like once with it. and then we didn't do the same thing as we did like usually, but because we know that Sparta is like a hard counter to it. It's annoying, but it kind of didn't go as planned, basically.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Did you get to see my interview with Dante right after that match?
No.
No, because he told me that they knew it was coming, despite the fact that they didn't scrim against you guys. So he said, according to some sources, we knew it was coming. So like, do you know maybe who the traitor was who told them?
I mean,
you have some ideas?
Yeah, I have some ideas. Okay, but it's like it doesn't matter if they know, kinda.
Mm-hmm.
But we kinda knew that there's like all of it. Like whenever you scrim against him, there's always often someone leaks your strats, right?
Yeah.
Someone sees you're doing something special and they've been with it. You're like, oh, this is pretty good. And then there's like this broken phone that goes around and tells every team that, oh, they're playing this. It's pretty good. They'll be winning against this and this team. You know?
Yeah.
I personally, I think it's kind of like leaking other teams' strats for LAN is kind of underhanded in a sense. You know, it's like there should be like some level of trust between teams that you can play things and they don't like babble around. But it's bound to happen. And
right, but like, don't you think that maybe this is more of an issue with like the scrim culture in general? Because like right before the Apex final, the season 1 Apex final, I believe those two teams were scrimming against one another, like right before the finals. So
really?
isn't it? Well, I don't remember exactly. Maybe it was like the semifinal or something.
I mean, yeah, okay.
But basically, in a playoff situation, you're scrimming the guys that you're going to be playing against right before that.
I think that's kind of weird. Like we cancelled all our scrims against all the 3 teams that were on the LAN, just so that they don't know what we would be playing, basically.
Because if you look at professional sports, like real life sports, they don't scrim other people. They find other ways to practice. Now sure, they have like people on the bench, so they can do like another squad to play against you or that kind of thing. We don't quite have that kind of funding, so we have to scrim against someone else. But isn't there, like, people are always talking about finding good scrims, and so they're scrimming against the people that they are going to be competing against.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. It's weird. Like I remember when I was following Dota 2, like there was a bit of drama about like teams leaking strats,
Yeah.
There was like some kind of gentleman's agreement that you don't leak anything the other team does. And someone like kind of breached that contract, and there was like a bit of outburst from the raiders on like social media that it shouldn't happen. But like screaming against team that you're eventually gonna play against is like a double-edged sword, right? You know what they're gonna run, but they also know what you'll do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's fun to see how like teams change over time. Like you practice against like I think we had it a lot happen with Reunited when they were still in the game.
Yeah.
And there was like EU tournaments happening that we practiced a lot against Reunited, and then there was always like little changes happening, like defenses, how they played, like a small variations to the hero picks when they play against us, So it was like always a bit of mind games going on.
Yeah. But then like it's whoever does a better job at kind of hiding stuff from those scrims has an edge afterwards in the games.
Like it's like you play against team with certain stuff, and then you practice the other team you have like lined up with other stuff, kinda, and you just hope that the other team doesn't like tell like the other players what you ran,
Right, but like you were talking about trust, but I mean when it comes to to competition, like a win's a win.
Yeah, that's true. It's like of course I would want to know what like the other teams run like 100% of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the trust part is just like when you tell one team that what like their opponent might be running, it's not about like the guy who told has like nothing to win, right?
Yeah.
It's just basically not undermining your practice, but just like trying to set you to lose, kinda.
Yeah.
It gets like more personal kinda after that.
Yeah, well, a lot of teams have developed kind of like one big scrim partner, that they
Yeah,
can
yeah,
trust, that they have good relations with, right?
yeah.
So, like, do you guys have someone like that?
Um, our scrims is like we used to play a lot against Reunited, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
They were like our everyday opponent, but right now it's like we have like 3, 4 teams that we scrim against like weekly,
Hmm.
but we don't have like that one, that is
Right.
like
So you don't have that kind of relationship where you would have that trust, basically.
no, no. I would say no, yeah.
Okay. 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 So going on a bit of another topic now. Back when the roster had Drakus and Numlock, Artier, that kind of thing, you guys did all kinds of weird roster swaps, right? Not roster swaps, but like role swaps, like who's playing what. Like Artier
Yeah,
was known for like his McCree for a tiny bit, and then he was playing Lucio all of a sudden, right? And so here at this tournament, it seems with Evakia and Veinless, you have more like, okay, those are our supports. Bromas and you're the DPS. It's more fixed.
yeah.
But we still had some switch for Farah between Toxic and at some point Bromas played it a bit. So like,
Yes.
tell us a bit more about that.
Usually the decision making when it's like okay, so when Bromas is on Zarya and Toxican is on Pharah, it usually means that the like both of them are good on Pharah, right?
Hmm.
It's just like how we want to approach the next point, kinda. So
Hmm.
if Bromas is on Pharah, it usually means that we are gonna swap off the Pharah for the next point because the Pharah ultimate is less important, right?
Yeah, then the Zarya.
Yeah. So it's like usually Toxicam plays it like more, kinda, because it's like one of Toxicam's favorite characters. So if there's like only one point where we need a Pharah or we need like a Pharah to counter their lineup, Bromas goes for it. But if it's like a game plan that we like kind of revolved around our thing, Toxican is on the Pharah.
Okay. Okay.
Like they both do the job with the Pharah, so it
That's
doesn't matter that much. We
it.
have flexible players.
It's kind of funny because like people kind of see Bromas as like a majority of the time on being on a hit scan.
Yeah.
So like McCree, his soldier, which he really likes, I remember, his tracer, but then all of a sudden you see him on Farah. So you're saying like it's really because you have flexible players?
Yeah, but like Bromas practiced Pharah for quite some time, and like there was like Pharah was played way more. So we know that Bromas can do what needs to be done with the Pharah. It's it,
Okay.
it's not a hard character, but it's just like I guess it would make more sense to like streamline what characters you play. But if there's like any switches you need, like a lot of time, for example, Anubis second point, the enemy team has like 0 hit scan, right?
Yeah.
And then you want the Pharah. So we have like Toxic and Osaria at that point, and he can't go Pharah. And we don't want to be in a position where like, oh, we can't play Pharah because X player can't play it, right? So it's like kind of like the same reason I sometimes play McCree, right? Like we have something else we want Bromas on, and I just play like McCree, even though Bromas usually plays all the hit scan in the team.
So it's kind of like the difference between game plan and kind of mid game adaptation.
Yeah, like you want to be able to adapt. Like I think at some point when we had like RTR,
Hmm.
like ages back, we lacked a bit of adaptive. Like we couldn't adapt that much, right? Because RTR was mainly playing hitscan at that time. Now he's been like flexing the other characters too. But at that time he was like only like a hitscan player, like pure hitscan player.
Right.
So when a team lacks adaptability, it means that they're not playing like necessarily like most optimal thing.
Hmm. Okay, so you played a tiny bit of Reaper on Gibraltar,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily a hero that people associate with you. So, like, could you tell us a bit more about that comp and that map?
Um, I think I played Reaper a couple of times in the tournament, but on the Gibraltar, it was like Reaper is a flanking character from like in a weird way. It's like a tracer or a Genji. The playstyle is similar. You drop off, you pick off targets, right? So it's not that different from what I'm used to playing. But for that map and point, it's like we knew that they're gonna run tanks. They're gonna run Sari and a Roadhog, and they won't have a diva, right?
Yeah.
So we knew that they're not gonna use too much high ground. Like, okay, they had the Genji eventually, which was like a bit annoying for a Reaper, but like Reaper still does well against tanks. I was thinking like my choices were to play Genji, maybe a Mei or Reaper in that point to like actually hold them on the first point. And I thought that the Reaper offers like the most burst damage when you die. We had like a Zen, right? So if we get a Discord and I dive on a target, target should die.
Right.
So
Is that choice like purely on you to be like, oh, I'm feeling this hero instead of like another one?
it's like 50-50 kind of. We have like lineups for points,
Yeah.
but if I'm feeling like, oh, I want to play Widow now, my team is like, they could be like, okay, yeah, go for it, you know.
Right.
But that Reaper was like, I said that I wasn't sure what I wanted to play actually, because they were running triple tank all the time. I was like, maybe I should play Reaper. We have to like hold them here, and my team was like, yeah, sure, go for it. It's okay.
Right. So like what a lot of people have said was the problem with Reaper in this meta were usually two heroes that they quote. One is Diva, but
Yeah.
she got nerfed, and then Soldier. Because like he has the range to deal with you, so it's kind of tricky. You need to get close to do that damage. So, like, what do you think about that matchup?
Well, so like Soldier versus Reaper is like there's no way Reaper wins it. And now with like I kind of knew that Fisher tends to play more Genji, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't expecting a Soldier, but the actual problem I ran onto that point was Roadhog.
Mm.
The Snizzers nodes kept killing me with right clicks, not hooks. Like I couldn't physically get close enough to him before he killed me, like on a couple of occasions, and that kind of snowballs the point. But when you play Reaper against like long range characters, you kind of want to like lure them in, you know. You want to be hiding
Yeah.
and wait for them. Like I think the best example is in King's Row, first point when Soldier is attacking, they tend to go like in the alley, you know, try to get the high ground.
Yeah.
And what I like to do before was like wait with the Reaper under the balcony where they jump off to the alley, you know, and
Just to say peekaboo and then shoot
yeah,
him in the
yeah,
back.
yeah, basically, yeah. But it's not something you can always rely on. So the more time goes on, and you have a Reaper in your team and you're defending, the harder it gets to actually defend the point, you know, because you're gonna run out of like places to hide, basically. Like they're gonna start checking every corner, and then
Right.
you're like done.
Right. Right. So like you can't surprise them anymore because you've just like tried every spot.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Right.
It's like they just start getting like really meticulous, and just every corner is like corner picked, and like they slowly push forward, and then you just have to take like try to take really strong engagements, and they can just stay far back because you know they have a Reaper, and like usually you just want to play Reaper for some time. If you die, you just swap out, you know, and just
Yeah.
hope that your team defends the point without you. If it's like a even fight.
Right. So speaking of Roadhog and specifically Snizzle Noses Roadhog, like you were also playing quite a bit of Roadhog in the previous meta. Is it like because well it didn't really fit Bromas, so you took that role, or are you like do you like that hero? Like what's going on?
So, well, when we decided to play triple tank, and like we just were like we tried really long time not to play triple tank, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe a bit too long. So it was basically like we talked like how we would like switch the roles and like who played what. So Toxican plays a lot of Zarya anyways, so we were fine on Toxican and Zarya. Bromas, the Soldier was still meta and like Tracer too sometimes, so we're like Soldier Bromas on like hit scan or like the third, fourth DPS. And then I was like, yeah, sure, I can play Roadhog, it's fine. I'll just practice him. I
Right.
didn't get really good at Roadhog. My Roadhog was like it was good, but not like great, you know.
Yeah.
Like great Roadhogs can like hit every right click and all the hooks. I just hit like lots of hooks, but sometimes my right clicks were like a bit off, and it was a bit annoying to play.
Right. So like when this new patch hit, you were like, oh boy, now it's my time to shine, right?
Yeah, maybe
Not
exactly
really.
those words too. I was happy. Like if I still had to play Roadhog, I would just like actually pour all my resources to practicing him, right?
Mhm.
And it's kind of unfortunate that I couldn't like play Roadhog as well as most Roadhog players play him. But it's just like when meta changes so fast, you just have to like accept it and try to learn it as fast as possible. And I think our mistake was when it comes to like triple tank and like my Roadhog play was we started practicing it too late.
Mm.
I think that was kind of our issue then.
So let's go back to your quote to finish, I guess. I'll repeat it. You can play whatever you want this patch if you execute well. So you still
Yeah.
stand by those words, right?
Yeah, I still do. I think triple tank is still good. I think dive is good. I think hybrid lineups is good. It's just it depends on the point and the map, right? Like some things are better than others, like on certain points, you know. But you can still pretty much like have comfort picks on every role you want now. Like comfort pick being I can play Genji basically whenever I want. I can play Widow whenever I want, you know.
Right.
But I guess the quote is somewhat not true. Like it's not like you can play whatever you want as long as it executed well. But there's a lot of swapping going on with like heroes now because it's not like the same all the time. So you can like push in certain characters. You see like they have no diva, they have no Winston. You can be like, oh, I can pick Widow. It's only Genji, you know.
Right. So because like every single time there's a big patch, you do have this period where people try different things. But so you believe that's not this patch, it's really the fact that it's a bit more balanced, so there's more options for teams to explore.
So, yeah, like I think the biggest issue last patch was that there was too much healing, like literally
Yeah.
too much healing for like team to go through, you know. And now that the healing is toned down, I think there should be like enough damage to offset the fact that they're running tanks. And now that the diva can't control the high ground alone, and Roadhog can't really go for those insane hooks all the time, it means that like the less tankier DPS characters have more space to run around, you know, and deal that damage, you know, because they still out DPS the tanks from range, you know. So it's just how you play it. Like for tanks to get into effective like damage distance, they have to get really close. So you have time to like shoot the tanks, make the fight happen before the tanks can actually engage.
What about ultimates though? Because there was this global nerfs to ultimates 25%, but I feel like this patch, because we don't have as much diva anymore, like sometimes you would get the graviton. It's not even a sense of like because divas eat graviton, but sometimes there's a diva inside the graviton, and she's kind of absorbing the damage that you throw afterwards. So like I feel like this patch even ults are just more important. Like do you kind of feel this, or am I totally off base?
No, I can I, like ultimates like Soldier ultimate is like absolutely out of control right now,
Yeah.
right? Like I think in the XtraCup actually you saw a lot of soldiers getting like 3-4 kills all the
Mhm.
time with the ulti because there's like if the Reinhardt shield is down you have nothing, right? You
Yeah.
have nothing. Like with Diva before you could basically nullify a soldier, but now the soldiers are roaming free like hit scan ultimates. And like Roadhog ulti can do a lot of work, and like high noons they can get more value even though that ultimate is kind of bad unfortunately. But Diva like shut down a lot of good ultimates. Like I think even Reaper ult is now like usable, you know,
Yeah.
because there's like they might have like 2 squishy targets that you can jump on and then just finish 2 guys instantly. But with Diva in the play, you could have never done that. So yeah, there's definitely more emphasis on the how you execute the ultis.
So for like the people who want to solo queue, is there like one composition that you think is easy to pick up that doesn't necessarily require too much coordination? Like what's your solo queue comp of the moment right now?
When I play ranked, I usually just hope I have a Lucio. Because
That's
I just
basic
use it.
expectations.
Yeah, I just hope I have two healers, right? No, it doesn't have to be Lucio. It just have to be two healers. So I at least know that there's gonna be some heals, right? And honestly, for the rest of the characters, if there's like some tanks, it doesn't have to be like Meta Reinhardt or like a Winston. Just some tanks, and like it just have to be like well-rounded composition for me. They can be like a Hansa man or like a Torb man. I don't really care, as long as the team actually tries to win, then you can win. Like there's been games where I have like the perfect comp, like the complete meta comp with triple tank and like a soldier or whatever, and we just lose the game. But it's mostly because the team just doesn't play well together. I have had like better games with like Torbjorn mains in King of the Hill, which is like absolutely ridiculous, and we have won them like 3-0 because the because the Torb main actually like did stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you have a Torbjorn or like a Zarya who doesn't shield; it's like the same.
So in the first episode of this show, we had Zebasai after they won the DreamHack doing all kinds of weird shit. And now it seems like all their wishes have kind of come true,
Yeah.
where you're now in a meta where all kinds of weird shit can happen, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I just hope that like usually the meta is kind of divided. Meta is kind of decided by the team that wins like the next big thing. So I'm I'm expecting kind of to see what happens in Apex.
Mhm.
Like what compositions they run and what wins the most. I'm expecting that to kind of dictate where the meta leans on. But I still hope that you can run like any comp kind of you want. That's like well rounded.
Yeah.
There's still time for the meta to settle down. It's not like for sure yet, but
Mhm.
I'm just hopeful,
Very hopeful.
very hopeful. Yeah.
All right. Do you have any last words that you want to share with everyone who's watching?
I think no, just huge shout out to all my fans, and of course Team Dignitas and my teammates. There's nothing much else.
All right. Well, this was great. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem, man.